Good morning, good afternoon, and good night at whatever time you may view this particular video. My name is Darshawn McAway, and today we're going to discuss things not to do in a reevaluation session. Now, earlier on part one of the Jumpman series, we did a brief introduction on how to get started with reevaluation. It really consists of you sitting down with someone that has a great listening ear so you can talk out some of your problems. And also, how did the reevaluation get started? Who found it? And how this particular platform is not tied into any coats or anything that's causing any harm towards anyone. We want people to be very successful in their personal lives. So we're taking the highlighted points throughout this manual and having you guys process the notion of becoming successful in your own personal endeavors and your own personal matters. Now, before we get started, let's go ahead and do some housekeeping and make sure everything's good. Make sure the audio is pristine and that you guys can hear us okay. Let's do this. Let's give a moment of silence to those that didn't make it and that have lost loved ones along the way. Okay, so thank you for that. So today we're going to discuss things not to do in your reevaluation process when you're sitting down with your spouse or a family member, you're sitting down with your child. One of the main things you want to try to focus on when you're doing these reevaluations is to make sure that you understand that no one is there to judge you. The person who you're having this conversation with, they're solely there to listen, and they're supposed to listen intently. Now, the manual reads as follows: things not to do. Almost all things for you not to do as a counselor will come under the general heading of do not let the client's troubles bother you. This, of course, is much easier said than done. This is the problem which you will never completely solve, but which you will improve as you work through it on your own counseling. That's very important. That's one big takeaway that I've learned about trying to reevaluate my own personal life so I can have my own personal success is that most of the time when I was listening to other people, I would find myself taking on their problems. Now, this was way before I got into reevaluation. Once I got into it and I learned how to listen intently, listen with interest, I also learned that whatever this person is going through, that's not my problem. I'm not here to fix anything for them. I'm not here to give them any money. I'm not here to just take all their burdens and put it on my shoulders. That's not why I'm here. And that's very important. The reason I chose the Jumpman series title and using some of Michael Jordan's images as the thumbnail is because when Michael Jordan won his 6 championship rings, he took his team to the championship. One thing that a lot of people didn't recognize about Michael Jordan, or maybe some people did, was Michael Jordan self-improved. And when he self-improved, everybody else around him improved as well. Everything starts from self. You have to start with yourself first. Now, what does that consist of? It consists of you reaching out to get some help. It consists of you learning how to take care of yourself mentally and nutrition wise. It's so many different things that you have to do in order for you to be successful in your own personal right. So, things not to do when you're sitting down and listening to someone is do not take on their problems. You're there to listen, you're there to show interest. And trust me, you're paying attention because what happens is you're finding yourself walking on eggshells, now that this person is exposing certain things about themselves, you know what not to talk about. You know what not to say to them in order to get them triggered. And that's a big process in which a lot of people have to realize that you don't always have to give your personal opinion or your personal perspective about what's going on with someone. It's just not necessary. That's why they say if you don't have anything nice to say, well, don't say anything at all. You don't have to give your expert opinion about what's happening in the world or what group or ethnicity of people that's moving into your neighborhood or what's happening on the news. You don't have to broadcast that to the world. Now, part two is don't be suggestive. Refrain from telling your client that you know what their problem is and you think that you can solve it. Don't tell him or her any similar situations that you've been through so you can become relatable. That's not what you're there for. You're there to just listen, and you're going to ask questions that the questions that you're going to ask will come along the lines of, so what do you think about that? Or how do you feel? Or when that happened to you, what were you going through? See, you're just prolonging the story so that person can learn how to help themselves. Don't interrupt. Just wait till it's the right time to speak. Don't give him or her good advice or point out any answers. Answers are not good to that person unless he or she has worked it out for themselves. And yours will only constitute as a barrier to working out their own. So that's not what you want to do, right? Try to spend your time listening, not talking. Another one is don't react emotionally. The only correct attitude toward your client's problem is one of interest and relaxed concern. Indifference on your part will make a quite an ineffective, but so will hostility or any other kind of emotional upset. Equally as true, any kind of sympathy response from you will constitute an obstacle to a person handling his or her own problem. If you sympathize with the client's problem, you will be reacting out of your own stored up emotions and problems, and the client will feel this and be inhibited by it. So don't react emotionally, don't interrupt, just spend your time listening, not talking. Now, at some point during this process, what you'll start to realize is that this person is working themselves out. They're getting to a point where they know how long the session is, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. They're aware of the time and they're talking through their issue. They're learning how to get away from what their problem is, what their rigid patterns are, what's disturbing them, who passed away, the job they lost, not being able to pay bills, um, not having a good credit score, just all these little knick-knack things. And what you'll start to realize is this person is coming to a full circle. And I think they are starting to understand that, okay, this too shall pass. This too shall pass. And my time is almost up. So I'm going to go ahead and dismount, if you will. And I think I got my problem somewhat worked out because they're having an opportunity to talk to someone and no one's interrupting them. No one's talking. No one's trying to give them the answer. Why? Because they are the answer. They're there working it with you because they're a part of the solution, which in turn, their mental process, the way they're going to process it and come to a conclusion is that they are the answer for the things that are happening in their lives. So when a client is discharging, meaning when that person is getting ready to come to a close, don't interfere. You will often feel moved to help or, but don't. Just let them do what they have to do. Be very perceptive to the results of what you do. However, if there is any slacking of discharge, stop what you're doing and return to what you were doing. So if you start to see them trying to, kind of waver on and in a roundabout way, not coming to their own conclusion, just continue to keep on listening. Be courteous, be pleasant, be mindful, and you'll start to notice that this person, they're going to come too. This is like real world advice. Aside from doing any type of counseling or sitting down with a therapist, these are things that they need to teach in school. They need to teach like in elementary, where children are having an opportunity to talk to one another, working out their issues, because these issues that we have, they stem from when we were kids. So, one of the biggest things a lot of people have to realize is we carry a lot of burdens with us from our childhood into adulthood. And there's a lot of people who did not have the opportunity to sit down and talk it out with anyone. Not even just anyone such as like a doctor or even a therapist. Like, some of us just really don't have an outlet to let go of our frustrations. Some people get an opportunity to get on YouTube and start pages and they just talk, because I think they just need to be able to voice things out loud. But for the most part, a lot of people are suffering in silence. A lot of men, a lot of women. And as we can see in today's time, there's a lot of people choosing the option to self-delete. And we don't want to encourage any self-deletion. We want to encourage a reevaluation of oneself, and to understand that the problems that you think that you have, they're just there momentarily. And a lot of it is very backbreaking. A lot of it is very difficult. Some people get themselves into some very uncomfortable situations to where their life becomes harmed by other people. People get involved into gambling, substance abuse, and all these different things, and they're trying to work their way out. Some people are honestly just trying to get over on other people, but at some point, you will end up working out your situation, or in a roundabout way, life will take its course and settle it for you. And there we have the people who don't get an opportunity to make it to the next day. So, being courteous, avoid any appearance of discourtesy in the keeping of an appointment, in manners and attitudes and tone of voice. A client can even have an opportunity they can tell that you're not being courteous. They can tell that you're not, listening. So when you're doing this, if someone's telling you let's just call it a story. If someone's telling you a story, you do want to listen to the details. Not that they're going to ask you, "Hey, where did I leave off?" You want to listen to the details, because if you're truly sincere about walking this earth with other people, coexisting with other people, what you'll tend to find out is you do need to know who's around you and what they're thinking and what they're what they're going through. And it's not that you're trying to be nosy. It has everything to do with just knowing your surroundings, reading the room. That's something that's very difficult for a lot of people to do, is to learn how to read the room, look at the environment, understand what type of place they're in, what type of setting this is, so that you can then properly navigate yourself around the room. So make sure you read the room. In these next couple parts, it says who decides to work on what, whose job to keep it all. And I think I'm going to leave it at that. So we're going to do these next two sessions here. And again, this is to focus on things not to do during a session. Okay? Things not to do. Who decides to work on what? It would be unworkable for you to approach your client with any preconceived notion of what she should work on or what is available. Sometimes you will have a rough idea from preceding sessions, but even then, your insight will be limited as to what is the actual availability and readiness of material for counseling. A client can always in some way bring to the light the thing that needs to be worked on. She may tell you directly, having thought about it ahead of time. She may even be at a loss, and yet given an opportunity to talk under her own direction, She will eventually bring up the topic, which will allow and show signs of uh, agitation, indicating the need for emotional discharge. So, in a roundabout way, that person can decide to work on whatever they want to work on for themselves. And once you are into this with your, let's say your spouse, let's say you're having a counseling session with your spouse, and for every 5 or 10 minutes a week, 5 to 10 minutes a week, you guys sit down once a week and you're talking about something. It is in your best judgment that if your wife is talking or your significant other is talking, let them go ahead and get emotional, and you're not supposed to stop them from that. You have to let them work it out. See, this is an adult thing to do. This information is for people who are sincerely trying to change their lives. They really want things to happen on a more positive note, and you can't just sit up there and take advantage of just talking to your spouse or whoever is listening to you just because they're there to listen. You really need to be working on yourself, and that's very important. You guys don't understand, I keep on referencing Michael Jordan because you guys don't understand how Michael Jordan worked on himself. And with this podcast series, I want this to be the greatest championship series you guys have ever received. You have to really work on yourself. You have to really be sincere. You have to really be thinking positive about yourself all day long, because this is your life. This is your time. This is your moment. And you don't want to keep on living life unhappy, dissatisfied, always thinking that someone's out to get you. You're never making it. You always seem like you're failing. Like you want to be in a position to where you feel good every day. You have a task to do every day. You have a goal. You have a vision. Things are happening for you. And not to put it in such a materialistic way, but money's always flowing to you consistently. Because see, when you listen to a lot of people's issues, a lot of their issues fall under the guidelines of not having enough money, not having enough time, not being present in their own lives. They're always working for somebody else. They're never going to get ahead. So it's up to that person what they decide they want to work on. And if they get emotional, let them get emotional. You're just there to listen. You're there to listen intently, and they'll soon work out their own problems. Now, we have one last section, and we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Whose job to keep at it? Whose job to keep at it? Whose job is it to keep at it? What do they mean by that? Once having found material available and ready to be worked on, however, a client cannot be expected to break through into discharge by himself, nor to stay with the material for repeated recountings that will make sufficient discharge possible. Here it becomes your responsibility as a counselor to keep returning the attention of your client to the point of emotional discharge over and over until a thorough job can be accomplished. You will do this even when the client seems to be making great efforts to distract himself and you away from the material. All right. So it is your job to, in a roundabout way, help them bring it to a close. And the way you do that is by asking the right questions. And those questions kind of consist of, so what do you think that you should do next? Or do you think that's the right thing for you to do? It depends on the story. It depends on the circumstance. How does it look for you? What was your conclusion about that? How do you feel about today's session? Like there is a way for you to recognize that you need to bring it to a close. And again, that comes from two people understanding what the circumstance is. You're sitting down in a session. So it's up to you two to understand that, okay, we're trying to bring this to a close. Our goal is to help you be able to emotionally discharge your frustrations and your grievances, if you will, about what's happening in your life, because these are just things that are happening. They're going to pass on. They're not going to stay with us, you know. And so at some point in doing these reevaluation sessions, people will start to achieve balance. You know, for me, back in the year 2009 and up until now, I had gained so much balance. You know, my life ended up working out so well for me. And it still is, you know. So I wanted to kind of give some insight and some tips as to why I'm so balanced, why I'm so successful in my own personal life, why I'm so loved and adored by the people in my family. And a big part of it is because I don't want to hold on to any stress or any problems. And I keep my thoughts, positive or negative, I keep them to myself. So I hope that this was a good session for you guys. Again, this is the Jumpman series of reevaluation. This has a notion of falling under the guidelines of United to End Racism, keeping your personal thoughts and perceptions about people to yourself. Focus on your own current circumstances. Focus on your own life. Do not get out here and think that you're supposed to save the world. Don't let other people's problems and or issues bother you. You are not here to save the world. And, you know, in a roundabout joking way, Jesus Christ died on the cross for all of your sins. So that has already been taking place. So you don't have to get out here and try to be Jesus Christ 2.0 or 5.0. You just got to get out here and do your part. And that's all you need to worry about. So again, this broadcast is brought to you by balancecologne.com. This company has been established since the year 2018. So go get your latest in men's fragrance. If you want to know more about me, go to darshawnmcaway.com. That's darshawnmcaway.com. If you want to support the platform, go to Cash App $1plan. We are accepting anything from $1 on up to millions of dollars, of course. Always remember to, life is short, live it how you see fit, and also live life to the fullest. That's why we're doing this series. We want people to live their lives to the fullest and understand that everything that you're going through is always going to work itself out. If you're looking for some latest clothes or shoes, go to desperateworshiper.com and bring out the worshiper in you. Once again, my name is Darshawn McAway. I'm the host of Wow Podcast. So feel free to go to wowpodcast.me and check out the interviews with some of the best-selling New York Times authors and USA Today. We speak to everyone who's interested in writing a book or just trying to figure out how to market a book. So I hope you guys enjoyed this mini series of Jumpman Reevaluation Therapy, hosted by Darshawn McAway. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.